Entitlement, the belief that one is inherently deserving of privileges or special treatment. How far would someone go to get the life they think they deserve, regardless of who they have to hurt to get it? Hi, I'm Cam,
And I'm Dev.
and you're listening to Criminalish, a true crime podcast where two best friends exchange stories ranging from the wild and wacky to the downright messed up. So, Dev, today I am going to be telling you about the attempted murder of Victoria Cilliers. This took place in 2015. Have you heard of this story before?
I'm going to go with no, but for some reason, it does sound familiar. But I could just be confusing the name because I take in potentially way too much true crime. So I'm going to go with no.
Okay. Understood. Before we get into today's story, though, what you drinking?
So y'all be happy for me. I am finally no longer a lying liar who lies. And I have my summer mocktail for y'all. I don't care that it's the end of summer. Shh.
It's not the end. It's not the end till September. They better stop with that.
Okay, period. Love that. But I have a Virgin Paloma. So it is grapefruit juice. And then I used a little bit of lime juice. And then I took some sparkling ice water. I used the sparkling ice lemonade. And I topped it off with that. So it's just going to be nice and refreshing. I had it at a bar recently with my coworkers. Really liked it. Came home. Put my own little spin on it, but did the same thing. So there y'all go. I have something new this week. But what are you drinking, friend?
So I technically have something new because I have a new type of tea. So I have a blue jasmine and butterfly pea flower tea.
Ooh.
And the tea is actually blue, which normally my tea is like light to dark brown. So when I finished steeping it and I saw that it was blue, I was like, oh, this is interesting. So I feel like technically it is something new, even though it's still tea. I'm gonna count it.
I too will count it.
Thank you. So like I said, today we're going to be talking about the attempted murder of Victoria Cilliers. And before I get into today's story, I did want to extend a couple trigger warnings for domestic violence and emotional abuse. So like I said, this story takes place in 2015, and at this time, Victoria Cilliers is a skydiving instructor living in Wiltshire, England. I couldn't find much information on her upbringing, but we do know that she'd been skydiving since the age of 16. And before her current husband, she'd been married once before, but didn't have any children with him. Her current husband, a man named Emile Cilliers, was originally born in South Africa in 1980. He joined the British Army in 2004 and became a physical training instructor. He and Victoria met in 2010 when she was working in the Army as a physiotherapist and he was with the Army. They quickly found that they had a lot of similarities. Specifically, they were both very active and adventurous. They seemed to fall in love quickly, and they were married just a year later in 2011 in Cape Town, South Africa. And by 2015, they had two children, a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old. So all this brings us to April 5th of 2015, which was also Easter Sunday. At around 4 p.m., Victoria was getting ready to go skydiving for the first time in almost a year since she'd given birth to her baby. Her husband, Emile, had actually arranged for this as a treat because he knew that she loved skydiving so much and had missed it since she wasn't able to do it for so long. So he and their two children came along so that they could watch and cheer her along. Because the conditions that they weren't great, she and the other divers were actually going to jump from a lower altitude of around 4,000 feet, where they would pretty much immediately deploy their parachutes after jumping out. And like I said, Victoria has been skydiving since she was 16. She is no novice. This was actually like her 2,650th jump that she'd ever done. So yeah, homegirl was used to this. True to this, not new to this.
Period.
As they were getting ready to jump, she even comforted one of the other divers who was expressing that he was feeling a little bit nervous. She was the last one to jump out of the plane, but she soon realized that there was an issue with her parachute. The main one didn't deploy, and when she deployed the reserve parachute, it didn't seem to be fully attached to her equipment. The other divers and those watching on the ground could see that she was struggling to maintain control and was falling at a high rate of speed. By the time she hit the ground, those waiting had assumed that she would not have survived that 4,000-foot fall, and they'd even brought a body bag with them when they went to get her. But when they got to her, she was drifting in and out of consciousness. She'd broken her pelvis and ribs, fractured her spine in 4 places, and she had a collapsed lung. The reason that she survived that day was likely because the field that she'd landed in had been freshly plowed and was extremely soft because of that. So the people on the ground and the other divers, they go into action. They, try to help stabilize her while they wait for help. She ends up getting airlifted to the hospital where she is, of course, taken into surgery and is sent there to recover.
Wow. That's crazy. But also, I may have heard of this case simply because I remember a case. It could not be this one, but I do remember a case of tampering with a parachute out of the plane. The reason I'm not going to say it's this case, because I feel like the other person did pass in the other case, and clearly she survived in this case. But I could also just be misremembering the facts. But either way, That's utter insanity. And I couldn't imagine how terrified she was going all the way down when your primary and your secondary parachute have seemingly given up on you.
Exactly. And especially since this is something that she's done a lot, like it would be like if you started walking and your legs just stopped working. Like, I'm sure it was almost muscle memory for her at that point. Like, of course, there's the adrenaline chase and everything, but parachutists are very serious about their safety. Skydivers are very serious about their safety. I am sure for her in that moment, her life flashed before her eyes. She even said that she'd already accepted that she was going to die.
That's awful. That's so scary.
And I will say there is another well-known case in England, actually, of somebody who died from skydiving. I'm not going to get too much in the details because I just remember skimming it and I didn't really take notes on it. But I do know that he did die and they ruled it a suicide. However, people still speculate whether or not he committed suicide because he did try to deploy that secondary parachute.
Okay. So it is possible. I could be confusing the two cases.
Yeah, but even if you have heard of this case, girl, the details in this case are ridiculous. So I am sure there will still be things that you did not hear before.
I can't wait for you to tell me, Fran.
So like I said, skydivers are very serious about their safety. And this could not be any more true for Mark Bayata. He was the chief instructor at the facility and the boss of the Army Parachute Association. And he was back at the skydiving facility scratching his head because he described himself as the quote unquote fun police. And that means that he made sure that every safety standard was being followed. So I'm sure he's back at the facility wondering how one of his parachutes could have malfunctioned because he is so serious about making sure that all of the safety standards are followed. And he is especially wondering how this could have happened to an experienced skydiver like Victoria, because she knows how to perform the checks and she knows to ensure that anyone who's doing it for her knows how to perform the proper checks. And as he's thinking back on what he saw and looking at the parachute, because it's still back at the facility, he's noticing that something's not adding up. The lines on one side of the parachute had knotted up, and two pieces of the reserve parachute had been detached. And as he inspected her equipment more thoroughly, he couldn't find any evidence of any failure on the equipment's part. He was looking for any evidence of like undue pressure on the parachute or any burns in the fabric, but he couldn't find anything. And then he goes and checks his records and sees that the equipment that Victoria had used had never had its reserve parachute deployed. But even then, that equipment had been inspected 16 times, with the last time being a couple months prior. And in each of those inspections, those two pieces that were missing from the reserve when Mark Bayada checked it were not missing during the inspection. So he's putting 2 and 2 together and getting 3 because something is not adding up. So what does he do? He decides to call the police the next day. Mark and the other parachute club members had taken videos and photos explaining how out of the ordinary this parachute's malfunction was. So the police decide to send the parachute off to something called the British Parachute Association for further review and investigation. And at this time, most police officers were not really taking this seriously. For one, most of them likely didn't understand how out of the ordinary this was. And two, they probably think, oh, Victoria is a skydiver, like accidents happen. It's a dangerous sport, whatever. So to be clear, like I said, skydivers are very serious about their safety, and the chance of this just being a tragic accident was extremely low. Parachute accidents are very rare, especially in the UK. The British Parachute Association estimated that out of the 2.3 million jumps that occurred between 2005 and 2015, only 2,900 of them, or 0.13%, required the reserve parachute. Out of that 0.13% where people had to deploy that secondary parachute, none of them had a problem with the reserve.
Oh, wow. This is statistically impossible.
Exactly.
Wow, that's fascinating. But that's also extremely impressive to have millions of jumps and essentially no issues or fatalities. That's really impressive.
Right. And that's because before each person jumps, that equipment is getting inspected. It doesn't matter.
Right.
And that's why, it's why they've been so successful in not having accidents from people skydiving. So the police that did kind of tilt their head at this, who were listening to what Mark Bayada and the other parachute club members were saying, they were kind of scratching their heads because, who would have done this? But 5 days after Victoria's accident, one of her close friends called the primary investigator, a woman named Maddie Henna, and told her that Victoria had confided in her that she was having issues in her marriage. This wasn't just like, marital woes, were arguing, not getting along. This friend said that their relationship was not healthy and that Emil would love bomb Victoria and treat her like a princess, and then get caught in a lie and then start the love bombing all over again just to keep Victoria from breaking up with him. And this was one of the first things that prompted police to really begin looking into Emil. But even with the close friends saying that they had a toxic relationship and, Mark Bayada and the other parachute people saying this parachute did not mess up because of mechanical failure, basically it had to have been tampered with, I guess they didn't really have enough evidence to, bring him in for questioning. So they're kind of waiting for the Parachute Association to get back to them with their findings from the investigation. And about 4 weeks later, those results come in. And the British Parachute Association confirms that the parachute did not malfunction because of mechanical failure, and the parachute had to have been tampered by the parachuter or someone else. And this is what finally gets the investigation going. And as police are looking into this, they're realizing the things that I've told you before. Skydiving protocol dictates that every piece of equipment needs to be inspected before diving. And who was the one that inspected Victoria's equipment? Emil. However, he should have noticed that key pieces of her equipment were missing. And the fact that he didn't is definitely raising some eyebrows.
May I ask you a question?
Yes, you may.
So, when it comes to doing the checks for the parachutes, do you need some kind of certification or something like that? Would Emil be qualified to check her equipment?
I'm not sure about the certification. However, Emil also was an experienced skydiver, so he definitely would have known what to look for.
Oh, okay. Okay. I didn't realize that he was a skydiver as well.
Yes, not as much as Victoria does, but he definitely would do it sometimes. He'd done it many times before.
Got you. Yeah, okay, sir. That looks really bad. That looks really bad.
Yeah. And even if he wasn't, why are you volunteering? Like, if he wasn't an experienced skydiver, I'd still be looking at him sideways because why would you then be checking her equipment?
Hello.
So on April 28th, the police arrested Emil at the barracks where he was basically a fitness instructor. So Emil's in the army still, and he is training all of these people at the barracks. To make this even better, one side of his office was completely glass and overlooking his students in the gym. The main investigator, Maddie Henna, let him know that he was being arrested on suspicion of attempted murder. And when she asked if he understood what she was saying, he told her that he was unhappy that she'd arrested him in front of his subordinates.
He's a textbook abuser because, again, I'm not upset that I'm being arrested, but how dare you embarrass me in front of the people I deem less than me? How dare you? Oh my God. I will say though, I love when karma comes back at people
Exactly.
because I know that was the most embarrassing thing of your entire life, to be arrested where everybody could see you. And I know you were utterly humiliated because abusers have extremely fragile egos. And the idea that people who you deem less than you would see you in a compromising position is devastating to their entire system. And I love it.
Eat it up.
No crumbs.
So the first interview with police lasted about 6 hours. Emil admitted that he didn't really want to be married to Victoria anymore and that he'd been cheating on her with another skydiving instructor named Stephanie, someone he'd met on Tinder. He also admitted that he disappeared into the bathroom with Victoria's equipment the day before the accident. They actually were at the skydiving facility the day before because that was when they'd originally planned to jump, but the weather conditions prevented it. He claimed that he did this because he had been inspecting Victoria's equipment and his 3-year-old daughter said that she needed to go to the bathroom, and he didn't want to leave Victoria's equipment unattended. Let me just say that Mr. Mark Bayada, the chief instructor at the facility, when he heard this, he refuted this and said, one, people leave their equipment around all the time unattended and it's not an issue. And two, the equipment is not some little bitty backpack. Like, this is equipment for a parachute. It's very big and it would have been a lot of work to carry that on your back, plus help a 3-year-old go to the bathroom.
If you gon' lie, at least lie well. I can't stand when people attempt to lie to me and lie to me like I'm stupid.
I feel like he was trying to do this like reverse psychology thing with them. And he was like, okay, if I offer up all this information that makes me look suspicious to the officers, they're not going to be suspicious of me and they're not going to really look into me anymore.
You know, again, he's playing Connect 4 and y'all are playing chess. Whoops.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. And this whole time during the interview, he does not seem pressed. Like, he does not seem worried that he's being interviewed by the police for the attempted murder of his wife. And the really interesting thing, during this interview, he never says that he didn't do it.
Oh, he was playing reverse psychology.
Right. He was never professing his innocence. He was just like, yeah, I don't like my wife. I've been cheating on her. And yeah, I did go into the bathroom with her equipment, but it was just so I could help my daughter out.
Also, sweetheart, to our lovely people at home, there is this beautiful, beautiful thing in society called a divorce. especially when you live in a society where a divorce won't ruin your life. Do that. Do that instead. It's okay. Your kids will get over it. You know, if you're going to pick a way to traumatize your children, just get a divorce. Don't attempt to kill their mother. It's sad that I have to say that. I really hate that I have to like put it that blatantly for y'all. But in case you just needed that friendly reminder, always remember that a divorce will always be less traumatizing than attempting to kill your children's parent. Stay safe.
Wise words. So, even though clearly this man is suspicious, clearly he got more than a couple screws loose, police did not have any physical evidence on which to arrest him. So he was released on bail under the condition that he could not return home to Victoria.
So what was the length of time between when the jump took place and when he was arrested?
So he was arrested on April 28th, and that jump took place on the 5th. So that was roughly 3 weeks.
Got you. And Victoria was home by that point? She wasn't recovering in a hospital anymore?
Yes, she was home in a pretty much full body brace. She was recovering at home.
Jesus Christ. Poor woman. Poor woman.
And remember, it's not just her. She has a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old. So she's also confused. Why can't my husband come home and help me out with these kids?
Because he's the one who did this to you.
And that's exactly what police are thinking. And they're like, you know what? Like, let's tell her our suspicions so that she can, 1, understand that she's in danger, and 2, support their investigation with anything else that she might know. So I do know that the investigators came to her in the hospital before this point, and they tried to talk to her, but she was just so confused about the whole situation. She was not understanding what was going on. She definitely was not believing that Emil could have had anything to do with it. So the investigators decide to tell her some more things because he had told them about the affair and all that. They were like, you know what? Let's tell Victoria. So they told him, not only did they suspect him of trying to murder her, and not only was he having an affair, he told this woman that he was going to leave her, and he denied being the father of his 1-year-old son with Victoria.
Based on what?
He told her, oh, baby, like, girl, I love you. I really love you. I'm married to this woman. I don't even want to be with her. She's having a baby, but that baby ain't even mine.
This is another textbook thing that cheaters and abusers like to do. You're out here cheating. You're out here telling your mistress that you love her, that you want to leave me. And then in that same breath, have the audacity to accuse me of cheating on you. Because clearly, if it's not your baby, clearly I went and slept with somebody else. That is indeed how things work. How dare you?
Clearly, he's projecting.
I was just about to say, holy mother. I saw this on the video. I can't even take credit for it, but it was holy mother of projection, Batman. What are you doing?
Exactly. So, of course, Victoria is distraught to hear all of this about Emil, the man that she loves and the man that she thought loved her back. And as she's processing this, she tells investigators about something that happened earlier in the week of her accident. About 6 days before, she'd smelled gas when she was in the kitchen. And when she went to check the valve, she saw a little bit of blood on it. So she texted Emil and jokingly asked him if he was trying to kill her, but he played it off and told her not to suggest that. Now, Emil wasn't at home at this time. He decided to spend the night at the barracks to apparently avoid the morning traffic. But in addition to Victoria being there, their 2 children were upstairs. So that'll just be another thing to add to the long list of Emil's mess ups during this story. Dev is literally speechless for those who are not watching the podcast. So I am just going to continue and I will allow her to continue gathering her thoughts. So even though Victoria is distraught, this is not the first time she is catching him in lies. He would apparently often disappear for long periods of time. And one time, one of Victoria's friends even told her that he'd sent inappropriate messages to her 16-year-old daughter.
Stop. He's a narcissist. He's an abuser. He's a wannabe family annihilator. And he's a pedophile. It's just, I was about to say the trifecta, but that's 4. I don't know what that's called.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Quadrifecta? I don't know.
Oh my God. I am so stressed out. I'm so stressed out. And I'm scared you're just going to tell me it keeps getting worse, Cam. I'm really scared.
I'm not going to tell you that.
Liar!
I'm telling you that I'm going to add more stress to your stress, though. So let's get into some more of Emil's lies, because it does not stop there. So yes, he'd admitted to police that he was having an affair with this other woman named Stephanie. But when police go through his phone, they find out that he was also having an affair with his ex-wife, Carly, who was also the mother to 2 of his other children. And she was also the one that he really been with when he said he was spending the night at the barracks. Now, Carly is also in the wrong here because she lived less than a mile from Emil and Victoria, and they would often share childcare.
Girl.
And like I said, lies plural, so here's more of them. So on top of this, he was also a member of a singers club and another site where he would search for sex workers. He actually got kicked out of the swingers club because he was not respecting consent.
I hate this man. I hate everything about this man. I don't hate very many people on this earth, but I hate this man.
And here is more fuel to the fire. As investigators dug into his past, they found out that he had 2 more children by a woman named Nicolene Shepherd. Now, he and Nicolene had actually grown up together in Ermelo, South Africa, which is a small town on the outskirts of Johannesburg. And they started dating when she was 13 and he was 17. Yep. Nicolene described Emil as charming and said that he would always get the latest technology and show it off. According to her, quote, he was used to getting whatever he wanted and was always in pursuit of his next big prize, whether that was an object or a woman, end quote.
Babes, you're a victim. What do you mean? Babes, you're a victim.
Yeah. And she's more talking about how she felt about him when she was, 13 to 16. As an adult, I will tell you, she's past it.
Okay, thank God, because I'm not even gonna lie. As somebody who has been in damn near that exact predicament, my heart was about to start hurting real bad because I'm like, sis, you're a victim. Please tell me that you're a victim. Please. Oh,
and even though as teenagers, Emil was always cheating on her, she said he was also always putting on big displays of affection, and she found herself entranced despite his lies. She ended up giving birth to their daughter at the age of 16 and was pregnant with their son about 6 months later. For some quick maths, this means that he was about 20 years old at this point. Nicolene said that Emil pressured her to have sex 10 days after she'd had a C-section. But I guess this was not enough for him, because while she was pregnant with their son, Emil went to England for a work trip. And even though he'd promised Nicolene that they would be parents together, that must have been when he met Carly and never came back. He wasn't even man enough to tell this to Nicolene herself. He made his mother break the news to her and never made any attempt to communicate with her or his children.
And that is the next issue. Mothers who enable their sons' bad behavior is how this crap continues generation after generation after generation. Y'all boy moms need to chill out, because enabling your son's bad behavior is pathetic. I'm going to call it what it is. It's pathetic. Because you wouldn't dare let a man treat you that way, yet you allow your son to treat these women this way? That's crazy. And I'm sorry, and maybe this is, again, just another opinion of mine because I'm grown. If you want to run the streets, go run the streets. There are plenty of women in this world who will be perfectly happy with you running the streets, doing whatever you please, and having nothing serious. Why go through and get married? Why have multiple children? Why do this? Because clearly it's not what you want. Go run the streets. Go have a good time in the streets. There are people who will be happy out there with you.
Yeah, because I'm just like, if my son called me talking about, yeah, mom, I'm not coming back home. Can you tell my baby mama and my children that, yeah, I ain't about to see them no more? Boy, if you don't get your butt on a plane, get back here and tell them yourself.
Before I have to get on the plane and drag you back by your ear.
Right. It's one thing if this was, someone you had an on and off thing with for like a few months and you just decided to leave. You have children with this person. You brought 2 lives into this world.
Right.
And these babies are close in age. She was pregnant 6 months after she gave birth.
Exactly. Because we all know the other issue is you shouldn't be pregnant that soon after just giving birth, especially a C-section.
Right.
So it's like, not only did you just not care about this woman in any regard, because you didn't care about her emotionally, physically, her health, you didn't give a damn about this woman. And then you go and marry somebody else knowing, in my opinion, I'm going to say it, knowing that you were never going to do right by them either.
So about 4 years later, in 2004, Nicolene actually ended up moving to the UK. But she had no plans on reaching out to Emil until about 2006, when her 6-year-old daughter, Celine, began asking questions about her father. And when Nicolene found him, she found out that he and Carly were married, and by this point already had 2 children of their own. But when she ended up confronting him about, leaving her and their children, he said that he was only with Carly because his visa was running out, and he was actually in the middle of divorcing her. Soon enough, he and Nicolene were reminiscing about old times and were back together. So Nicolene only realized that Emil was lying when he'd left his phone at her place one day and Carly called him. So Nicolene picked up. And of course, she picks up the phone and she's like, who is this? Carly's like, who is this? And they realize that Emil has been doing both of them dirty. So they decide to confront him together. And when he walks into Carly's house, Nicolene said if looks could kill, she would have been dead. The first thing he says to her, he speaks in Afrikaans and he asks her, what the fuck are you doing here? Which is a bold question when you're in the wrong.
You are literally out here cheating. You are literally out here lying to me. And I'm the problem? I'm the problem? I'm the issue? I'm the drama? I don't think I'm the drama. But also, nothing makes me happier than when women pair up and actually attack the root of all evil, which is the man who did this, instead of attacking each other. That is a beautiful sight to see. We love to see it because homeboy's the problem, not the girl he's cheating on you with. Homeboy. So you gotta go deal with homeboy. And I love that.
Exactly. And this was the nail in the coffin for Nicolene. She might have thought that, he was young and dumb before, but he's changed. But no, she realized that this man has not changed at all. Even though Nicolene ended their relationship, Emil never stopped pursuing her. Even after she'd gotten married to someone else, had 3 more children, and changed her number, he still tried to message her on Facebook.
Get a life.
Right.
Because you don't want me. You just want me around because you can manipulate me. So you can waste my years and my time and my life. You don't want me.
He wants her because he can't have her.
Hello.
And the reason I did say Nicolene's daughter's name, Celine, is one, she is an adult now, but also she did sit down for an interview and she talked about the hurt that she always felt because Emil had never even apologized for leaving her and her brother. So I say all this backstory just to show that, it did not start with Victoria. This has always been a man who believes that if he wants something, he should get it. There should be no barriers between him and the things that he wants. And police are piecing this together too. they realized that he's been hiding a lot of secrets. But they still did not have a super clear motive. That was until they did a little bit more digging, and they specifically dug into his finances. And they found out that Emil was at least 22,000 pounds in debt. And I say at least because they believed that this number was even higher, but they couldn't figure it out because this man was apparently moving his money around different accounts on a daily basis. So the financial investigators were not able to unweave this web that he'd woven. But they did know that he owed money to moneylenders, former colleagues, and Victoria herself. She'd apparently lent him more than 19,000 pounds over their 7-year relationship, and he would often fail to pay her back on the standing order that they had. Investigators also found out that he'd stolen 6,000 pounds from her when he took it from her savings account and claimed that she must have been hacked. But when the bank investigated it, they determined that the IP address that took the money came from the family computer.
Again, if you're gonna lie, lie well. I hate stupid criminals. Y'all be getting on my nerves.
Exactly.
You're stupid and a terrible person. Pick a struggle.
Literally. And he'd also made sure that he added Victoria to his life insurance policy and that she had the maximum coverage. This was about 120,000 pounds. However, he was likely expecting more from Victoria's will, but he didn't know that the life insurance policy was all he's going to get because Victoria took him out of the will once she realized how bad with money he was.
Period. Yes. Period. I love it. I absolutely love it. And this is why you move in the shadows. You move in the shadows. You never let anybody think they're going to get anything from you. But also, I think this just also tells you where your head is at. If you can't even trust somebody with your belongings after death, do you actually want to be with them for the rest of your life? Do you actually want to continue to bear children with them? Do you actually want a life with them? Because you can't even trust that they would take your assets in death and use them responsibly to take care of your family. That doesn't sound like somebody you want to be with forever.
Exactly. So investigators knew that Emil would have gained still a sizable amount of money from Victoria's death. And they also knew that he was planning to leave Victoria for his lover, Stephanie. But as they looked at the text more closely, a couple of them stood out. Specifically, one where he told Stephanie, quote, "I will sacrifice and give up so much for you," end quote. And another where he said, quote, "From April onwards, I can be random and spontaneous," end quote.
So we're getting first degree. It's giving first degree.
Exactly. So all of this investigation, it does take a couple of months. And around September 2015, they end up bringing him in a second time as their evidence against him is building more and more. And Dev, honestly, I just got to play this clip for you because you have to hear how ridiculous this man is. His arrogance is infuriating. I already know you hate him, but I just got to give you more reasons to hate him.
Oh no, I'm terrified.
In September 2015, Emil was brought to Swindon Police Station for a second interview and asked to explain the evidence that was mounting against him.
He turns up in a t-shirt, shorts and flip-flops. Mr. Casual walks in. It's just that air of arrogance.
So
there's nothing here to fear.
you went to get Victoria a parachute?
Yes.
Tell me about the checks you did.
It's just standard checks as you should do as a parachutist.
Okay, well tell me what those standard checks are. I don't know, I don't parachute.
Okay, I'm sure you can investigate and answer the right questions to the right people in regards to checking a parachute.
Okay, I'm asking you,
Well, I
Emil,
can't remember.
because you obviously did
Right.
did the checks.
Yes. I
So-
would just do the standard checks.
And what are those standard checks?
Check if there's a green in the window, check the risers on the side.
The way I would have backhanded him across the table for fixing his mouth to talk to me like that.
Cause, sir, who the hell you think you talking to?
I would be looking around like, you can't be talking to me. You cannot be talking. There must be someone else in this room that I cannot see, because I just know for a fact that you're not talking to me. I will take my phone apart before I accept that I am the one you were talking to.
Hello. Especially because, sir, and it is exactly right what they were saying about the arrogance. Because, sir, I hold your whole life in my hand right now. I am the biggest person in this room. And I can especially tell, too, and I had a sneaking suspicion, but that audio just confirmed it for me. You have no respect for women, and especially women in authority. Because all the attitude he's giving her is because she's a woman. Stop it. You big up yourself. Stop it.
Exactly. I will say he got attitude in general, but I agree.
Mm-hmm.
And him mentioning that he checked the risers is actually a really key thing, because the risers was one of the pieces that was missing from the equipment. So if he's saying that he checked that, that's not adding up. You should have caught that, sir. And also a little bit later in that same interview, they asked him about Stephanie. And I guess by this time, Stephanie had dropped him. And they were like, you know, what's going to happen with Stephanie? And he was like, nothing. This man started crying.
They always cried over their side piece. They always do. Mm-hmm. They always cry over the side piece.
But your wife almost died and you didn't shed a single tear?
Of course not. I set her up. I wanted her to die. I wanted to be with my side piece. I'm sad my side piece left me. My wife lived, and that's why I'm sad.
Mm-hmm. So after this, police do a little bit more work, and they actually end up examining the blood that was on the gas valve, as well as the tool that was likely used. And they not only confirmed that the blood belonged to Emil, they also were able to confirm that the valve had been loosened and not tightened, based on the markings in the tool. So they bring him in a third time to answer to all this evidence. And like I said, he gets snappy with women and men. I guess his mouth is rated E for everyone. So I'm going to play another little clip from the same video.
Armed with new evidence, the police brought Emil in for questioning a third time.
When was the last time you used your locking pliers?
Can't remember.
What was it for?
You just asked me when's the last time I used it, and now you're asking me what
did you
for.
use it for?
And when I said I can't remember when I last used them, how can I remember what I used them for?
You might not remember when you used them, you might remember what you
I
used
don't
them
know.
for. That's what I'm asking for.
Can't remember.
I know you say he is snappy at everybody, but in my opinion, he was definitely more snappy at the woman.
Oh, he fixed his mouth something crazy with that woman.
Exactly. And that's what it was. Because even with the officer, he was like, you just asked me that. There was no, obviously, I just did whatever, because I'm so smart and I'm the whatever. And I'm, I think way too highly of myself. That was the energy he gave with the woman.
Mm-hmm.
Sir, I don't understand how you're this arrogant. I don't understand how the police are on your tail and you're this arrogant. Like, I don't get it. Like, I've seen this in other criminals too, and it's just never made sense to me.
Yeah, I agree. Even if I did do it, I would try not to piss y'all off.
Hello. And Runkle of the Bailey, if you watch LawTube, you will know exactly who I'm talking about. He calls it the pissing off the cops tax. You don't want to piss off the cops because they will always find a way to extra stack them charges if you piss them off. They will.
Right. So by this point, police felt like they had the evidence that they needed, especially considering what Victoria had told them. So a little bit more than 2 years after Victoria's fall, the case goes to trial. His trial lasted about 7 weeks, and there was no one, no family or friends on his side supporting him. He'd actually already been discharged from the army. But he would show up in a suit and tie every single day and would try to come across as someone who was very confident and someone who didn't think that there was a chance he would go to prison for this. The prosecutors argued that Emil tried to kill Victoria to take the 120,000 pounds worth of life insurance money and start over with his girlfriend, Stephanie. They also went into detail to explain to the jury just how Emil had sabotaged Victoria's parachute. They wanted to make sure that the jury, who likely had no knowledge of parachutes before this, understood just how clear it was that this was not some mechanical failure. This was tampering. However, when Victoria took the stand, the prosecution expected her to back up the evidence that she'd given them. But she surprised everyone when she said that she lied about how long Emil had been in the toilet with her parachute. She also said that she'd been the one to cut away her own parachute and that she'd been the one who tampered with the gas valve. And on January 23rd, 2017, the trial ended in a hung jury and Emil walked free. It was clear to everyone that Emil still had a hold on her, and her change of heart was completely due to him. In early 2018, Emil was brought back to court on the same charges, which were 2 counts of attempted murder. One for the parachute and one for the gas leak. And the prosecution decided to present all tens of thousands of Emil's text messages. What they wanted to show was that Emil was a person capable of, in the same moment, texting his wife to check in on her, texting his girlfriend, setting up a date with a sex worker, and setting up a date with somebody from the swingers club. He could do this all and not make a single mistake. He was even on his way to see Victoria in the ICU, and at the same time, setting up a time to meet with the sex worker. After 6 weeks of trial, the prosecution rested their case and the jury deliberated for 3 days. After this, Emil was found guilty on both counts of attempted murder and sentenced to life with a minimum of 18 years. Victoria apparently wrote a victim impact statement, but did not want it read aloud. Many believe that she tried to get a lighter sentence for Emil. During sentencing, the judge, Mr. Justice Sweeney, said that it seemed like Victoria had, quote, recovered from the physical harm, but not, having seen her in the witness box at length, from the psychological harm, end quote. After Emil was found guilty, she gave interviews to 2 tabloids and went on to Good Morning Britain to say that she didn't accept the verdict. She said, quote, "It's almost like peer pressure to conform. My family, friends, everyone seems to think they know more than I do. They see different evidence to me. He'd been unfaithful. He'd had issues with money, but that is not attempted murder. Yes, I'm hurt and angry, but can I see him as capable of murder? No." End quote. So I'm going to go ahead and get into the aftermath because, Dev, it will make you feel a little bit better. So later that year in 2018, Victoria went skydiving again for the first time since Emil tried to take her life. This was, of course, a big step for her, and she had a lot of anxiety and apprehension before she jumped. But her children and other people from her community were on the ground waving and cheering her on. In 2020, she released a memoir called I Survived. In this, she talked about her experience with Emil and seemed to come to terms with the fact that he had tried to take her life. She also revealed that she was dating someone new. And this guy is someone that she'd actually known for nearly 10 years at that point. And she said that she didn't think she could date someone totally new because the pain and pressure of having to recount everything would be too much to bear. And on top of this guy just making her really happy and getting along well with her and her kids, he knew everything. He knew her before the accident. He knew her after the accident. He knew everything that she'd been through. And they had the same friends. And she just said that this really helped with her trust issues because Because, again, having to date someone totally new, you don't know any of their friends, you don't know their history, they don't know you. On top of having to recount all of that trauma, just the fear that this person may do something totally out of left field from your perspective and rip away all the trust that you had in them. So it seems like she's doing better. She's come to terms with what happened to her, and she's accepted the fact that she was manipulated by Emil. And Emil is still in prison, where he will hopefully be for an extremely long time. And that's the end of our story, friend.
Thank you for telling this story, Cam. And I am glad you got to that part, because I'm not even going to lie to you. At the end, I was about to cry, because it's always so sad to see in full Technicolor that this person still has such a strong hold on you, that this person still had the ability to control your entire life. And you felt this loyalty to them, even though they had none to you. And like we always say, when the cognitive dissonance is too much, people would rather believe a beautiful lie than the ugly truth. Especially in her case, it makes so much sense to me, because he's not just her husband. He's the father of her children. He's the man that she thought she was going to build a life with, have this beautiful family with. That's who he was to her. He's not a boyfriend. He's not a baby daddy. That's the father of her children. So I can understand how she felt, and I can understand her feeling the need to still look after him and protect him. But I am glad that, by all accounts, she has healed. She has grown, and she has come to accept that this person did not love you. They loved manipulating you. They loved taking advantage of you. They loved making themselves feel good by your presence, but they never did love you. And that's a hard pill to swallow. It's a hard thing to eat. I have had to take that pill myself. It's difficult and it hurts, but you're so much happier on the other side. And I'm so, so happy that she is with somebody who understands her, who understands the situation, is great with her children, is making her happy, because she completely, completely deserves that.
Agreed. And I think too, what's scary about this, and the reason I'm glad that, he's going to be in prison for a long time, is that he was never going to stop. He was never going to stop. He definitely would have tried to kill her again. And if he'd ended up with Stephanie, he probably would have tried to do something similar with her. People who are greedy like this, they will go to any length to get what they want.
Absolutely. Because the escalation that would have taken place, it's scary to think about.
And also, let's just talk about this, because I didn't even call this out. One, the gas leak thing, his children were there. Two, he took his children to where she was skydiving, knowing that she was going to fall.
I thought that exact thing when you said it, and I was going to save it to talk about it now, because my immediate reaction was, that's psychopathic. Like, you enjoy inflicting pain and trauma on people. I'm convinced, because you enjoy doing that to Nicolene. You enjoyed doing that to her. You enjoyed making her life miserable. And then when she left you, you sought after her, hoping that you could continue to make her life miserable. And now you're going to harm your children, which I'm not even going to lie to you. As soon as you told me about the gas leak, I was like, oh, this makes perfect sense as to why he brought the children, because he doesn't care about them either. God only knows what would have happened to those children if they would have been left in his care if Victoria had passed in that fall. I am terrified to think of what he would have done to those children.
Yeah, and just so arrogant and evil.
Yes, arrogant and evil. And I will say, I was actually very shocked to hear that he got life in prison, because Europe, especially the UK, is notorious for getting very, very light sentences, even for murder, right? So I was really happy to see that, because I just knew as soon as you said Europe in this case, I was waiting for you to be like, yep, and he was given 5 years of probation and a stay away order from Victoria. That's what I was expecting. I'm not even going to lie to you. I expected him to completely get not even a slap on the wrist, maybe a light handling on the wrist. So I was quite happy with that outcome. And again, I'm just happy for Victoria. I'm happy for her children, even though they will definitely have some trauma to deal with. But I'm happy for her that she has grown and moved on, and she is a survivor.
Right. And they did say the minimum is 18 years, so there's a potential that he won't serve life. But I also feel like he got that heavy of a sentence because he was so arrogant and full of himself. Prosecutors and judge probably did it out of spite because he had no remorse.
Absolutely not. But that's exactly what I'm talking about with that pissing off the court tax.
Mm-hmm.
You done pissed everybody off, and now everybody's coming for your neck because you pissed them off.
But yeah, girl, that was a wild story to research. I just felt like every time I uncovered something about him, there were two more things.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. But to wrap up today's episode, we are going to again tell you what happened on this day in history. So, on July 26th, 1998, my beautiful, amazing co-host and best friend was born. And she would go on to have a beautiful and lovely friendship with me, where she has shown that she's the most amazing person I know, that she loves everything and everybody around her deeply. And she's so dedicated that we are up at 11 p.m. to get this episode ready for y'all. Happy birthday, boo. I love you.
I love you too, girl. That is so sweet. Oh my gosh. You really had me because I thought, because I was like, oh yeah, it's supposed to be a crime story. And she was like, oh, I think I found one. But it's like more legal. I was like, oh, let me just hear it. You really got me.
I'm glad I did. Because y'all need to know how amazing my best friend is. Nothing but love for the amazing person that has chosen to put up with my foolishness for the last 16 years.
Oh, I've stopped counting.
So today is obviously a special occasion, but we will continue to bring you guys more crime-related events that happened on this day in the future. So if you like this segment and you're really excited about this segment, please be sure to leave a birthday cake emoji in the comments. And that is what happened in history today.
I really did not even get it until you said my name, because I was like, oh my God, this happened on my birthday, like the day I was born too. That's so crazy.
I knew when I saw your face that you didn't get it. And it was so funny, y'all, because I made sure to pull up my phone and act like I was reading an article so she would be confused.
Yeah, I fell for it. Any other thoughts, friend?
Nope, that's all I got.
Thank you to our listeners for joining us on this episode. I would especially like to thank The Guardian and the True Crime Central YouTube channel for providing much of the material for this episode. If you'd like to check out photos related to this case, we will be posting them on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at Criminalish Podcast.
Listeners, if you like what you hear, be sure to tell a friend and leave a 5-star review wherever you're listening to the Criminalish Podcast. And if you're listening on YouTube, be sure to subscribe to our channel and feel free to leave any comments or questions. As always, stay nosy, my friends. Bye.
Bye.